Hello everyone and welcome to my B&B Fan Club channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Poppy Sinclair remained still in the dark light of the hospital corridor, the fluorescent lights buzzing like distant recollections of summer fireflies, her palm holding the doorframe as if it were the only anchor preventing her from drifting into oblivion. Luna, her daughter, the one she'd buried in a rain-soaked cemetery 3 years ago, was alive. Not a ghost, not a delusion created by grief's harsh alchemy, but actual flesh and blood breathing in the room beyond. Poppy's knees buckled but she did not fall. She could not. Not yet. It began on a Tuesday, the kind of regular day where the barbs are hidden until they puncture the deepest. Poppy was 38 now, her once vibrant red hair stained with gray and her eyes sunken by the never-ending grind of loss. She worked as a night shift nurse in the same hospital where Luna had been proclaimed dead, irony at its sharpest. That evening when she was charting vital signs for a comatose patient, her supervisor, Dr. Elena Vasquez, approached her. "Poppy, there's something you need to see." "It's impossible." They escorted her to room 417, a sterile chamber reeking of antiseptic and fading hope. There, attached to monitors beeping a constant rhythm of life, lay a young woman of 21, her black locks framing a face reminiscent of Poppy's own childhood. Luna. Alive. The story unfurled in parts, beginning with a mix-up in the morgue during a tumultuous storm 3 years ago. Luna had not died in the automobile accident. She had been sedated, mistaken, and buried beneath a Jane Doe slab while the true victim, a distant cousin with similar features, was interred in the family plot. A whistleblower's confession, a DNA match quickly processed in the labs, and now this. Poppy's reaction was astonishing, not in shouts or tears but in silence. A hole so deep that it absorbed the room. She did not hurry forward. She did not embrace. She stepped away, her face a porcelain mask that cracked from inside. "No," she said quietly, once, twice, like a mantra against the tide. Nurses exchanged glances. Dr. Vasquez leaned out, but Poppy backed away. "This isn't her. It can't be." Her voice cracked, not with excitement, but with a profound sadness that pierced the air. "Why is it so shocking?" Because Poppy, the lady who had persevered through 3 years of treatment, support groups, and empty cribs, refused the miracle. Her anguish had become her identity, a garment so intricately knit that unraveling, it would leave her naked and vulnerable. As Poppy fled the hospital, the rain fell. A torrential downpour that mirrored the deluge in her soul. She drove aimlessly through the suburbs of Eldridge, a forsaken town on the outskirts of Chicago with sagging porches and unfulfilled hopes. Her imagination repeated the crash. The screech of tires on black ice, the police call at 2 a.m., the little white coffin against gray skies. Luna had been 18 years old, vivacious, and on her way home from a college party. Poppy had held her hand among the debris, or so she believed. Doubt festered. Was this imposter pulling a cruel joke? A laboratory error? Or worse, real, and demanding that Poppy restore a life she had painstakingly dismantled? Miles away, in the bustling newsroom of the Eldridge Gazette, Deke Harlan was on a high. Deke, 42, with his rumpled tweed jacket and persistent 5 o'clock shadow, had finally secured the editor-in-chief position he'd sought for 2 decades. The announcement came that same rainy Tuesday, via a jubilant email from the publisher. "Congratulations, Deke. You're our new top dog. Deliriously happy doesn't cover it. Let's make this paper shine." Colleagues toasted with lukewarm coffee, while Deke grinned like a kid on Christmas, his laughter echoing off the walls plastered with yellowing clippings of his investigative scoops. Deke's enthusiasm was wild and infectious, a dramatic contrast to Poppy's despair. He'd worked his way up from cub reporter to exposing corruption in City Hall and championing underdogs like single mothers in trailer parks. This job was his redemption, a way out of the freelance hell that had left him scraping by in a 1-bedroom apartment with leaking plumbing. That night he celebrated alone in O'Malley's pub, drinking beer and scribbling tale ideas on napkins. "Front page gold," he said, his eyes shining. Little did he realize that his happiness was going to meet with Poppy's nightmare, resulting in a narrative of distinct misery that would tear them apart. Their paths crossed the following morning in the hospital cafeteria, where fate plays its cruelest tricks. Poppy, sleepless and devastated, drank black coffee while staring at a napkin she had crushed into confetti. Deke, still ecstatic from his victory, rushed in for a quick breakfast before his first official day. He saw her unkempt but beautiful in her brokenness, and approached ever the storyteller. "Rough night? You look like you could use a win. My name's Deke Harlan, and I'm the new editor at the Gazette. What's your story?" Poppy's eyes met his, dull as river stones. "My story? My daughter died 3 years ago. Now they say she's alive. And I can't feel anything but pain." Her words flowed out, stunning even herself. Deke, sensing Pulitzer potential, listened, forgetting his notebook. By the end of her halting, tearless monologue, he was hooked. "This is huge, Poppy. Let me help tell it. Justice for Luna, for you." However, Poppy recoiled again. "No press. No spectacle. This isn't a story. It's my hell." Nonetheless, Deke persisted, his euphoric bliss blinding him to her limits. He presented it gently. An essay about medical blunders with anonymity guaranteed. Against her better judgment, she consented, if only to stop the buzzing in her head. What ensued was a week of shaky alliance. Deke interviewed doctors and sifted through documents, his delight in the scoop mixed with real pity. Poppy visited Luna on a daily basis, but each time, the astonishment turned into rejection. She'd sit by the bed holding a stranger's hand and whispering, "You're not her. My Luna loved jazz and wildflowers. You're just a ghost in her skin." Nurses whispered of Munchausen by proxy in reverse, while therapists encouraged acceptance. But Poppy's anguish was distinct. Not denial, but a profound, excruciating refuse caused by love's perversion. She created altars to the deceased Luna, such as photo walls and annual birthday cakes with empty pieces. Reviving the living one entailed removing that sacred anguish. Deke's contentment, meanwhile, deteriorated gradually. As he wrote, details came that twisted the knife. The relative buried in Luna's plot was Deke's estranged niece, Lila, who died in the same crash. Unbeknownst to Poppy, Deke had his own concealed sorrow. Lila's death had separated him from his sister, Poppy's neighbor at the time. He had no idea Poppy existed. He hadn't connected the dots. Now exuberant bliss has cracked. "This job, it's built on my family's pain," he confessed to his mirror one night, his whiskey glass shaking. The story, Miracle Mix-Up, Buried Alive in Eldridge Hospital Horror, was published on Friday. The facts are graphic, but the author remains anonymous. The community erupted, with calls flooding the Gazette and rallies outside the hospital gates. Deke basked in accolades, promotions whispered, but Poppy disappeared. She discontinued visits and barricaded her flat with drawn curtains. When Deke knocked, she screamed through the door, "You made it worse. Now everyone's staring, judging. Luna's alive, and I'm the monster who won't hug her." He broke in that night, disregarding journalistic ethics, and found Poppy curled on the floor among Luna's old belongings. A faded prom dress, a diary yellowed with time. "Why can't I be happy?" she cried. Deke knelt, his new title felt like fool's gold. "Because happiness is a thief. It steals the pain we need to survive." His voice lost its buoyant lilt for the first time. They chatted till morning, unraveling links such as Deke's sorrow over Lila and Poppy's fear of falling in love again only to be rejected. Luna awoke completely on Sunday, her voice rasping. "Mom!" Poppy entered, flanked by Deke. The reunion was not a hallmark moment. Poppy froze, tears finally falling. Not joy, but a frightening torrent of fury and grief. "I mourned you. I lived without you, now what?" She slumped, sobbing as Luna stretched out. Deke watched as his dizzying high faded, replaced with a misery all his own. The thrill of success tainted by the blood on his byline. Months passed in a flurry of uncertain recovery, yet the distinct sadness stayed, a darkness no light could dispel. Poppy and Luna coexisted uneasily, with uncomfortable discussions over burnt toast for morning. Luna, traumatized by coma visions, resented her mother's distance. "You buried me twice, once in the ground, once in your heart." Poppy attempted therapy, but sessions ended in silences that weighed more than words. Deke, who had been promoted again, pushed himself into exposés, but each one mirrored his own split. He dated seldom, but ladies avoided his haunting eyes. "The job was my dream," he'd add. But dreams curdle. One autumn evening a year later, they met at Luna's grave. The empty one, now a monument to mistake. Poppy put wildflowers and Luna played jazz recordings. Deke read aloud his most recent essay, a private elegy for lost years, rather than publishing it. As the leaves swirled, Poppy finally embraced Luna, whispering, "I'm sorry." My shock. It was fear of joy. But the hug was fleeting. Melancholy, unique and indelible, whispered that some wounds go deeper than skin. Deke walked away alone, his elevation a hollow victory. 3 spirits roamed Eldridge's peaceful streets, connected by a miracle that revealed the darkest truth. Life regained can be the cruelest steel of all. The wind howled through the cracked window of Poppy's flat, conveying the aroma of damp earth and faraway grief. It was the first winter after the revelation, and snow covered Eldridge like a cloak, muffled the world's roar. Poppy sat at the kitchen table, a half-empty mug of chamomile tea resting between her hands. Across from her, Luna plucked at a plate of pasta, sketching patterns in the sauce rather than eating it. The quiet stretched as tense as a violin string about to snap. "I saw the article again today," Luna finally replied, her tone mild but accusatory. "Online. People are still talking. The woman who rejected her miracle daughter." Poppy's grip tightened. "That wasn't the title. Deke promised." "Deke's your friend now? The one who turned my life into headlines?" Luna's eyes blazed with hurt, just like Poppy's. "I woke up to nurses gawking, reporters at the door, and you weren't there." Poppy remembered the shock of that first day as if it were fresh scars. She paused in the doorway, her heart pounding, seeing a specter steal Luna's face rather than her daughter. The machine beeps taunted her, and the girl's timid smile penetrated like shrapnel. Poppy had fled, vomiting in the bathroom, her body rejecting what her soul couldn't bear. Grief had been her constant companion, even on lonely nights. Joy. It was a stranger who demanded admittance with false promises. Deke's engagement had served as a spark. After their lunchtime meeting, he became a regular, bringing off food and interviewing sources at her kitchen table while she paced. His euphoric glee permeated the air. He'd chuckle in mid-sentence and clap her shoulder. "This story's gonna change lives, Poppy. Hospital reforms, accountability. Your pain's a beacon." But as the drafts piled up, Poppy realized the cost. Deke's notepad was full with her secrets, including the time she shouted at empty rooms, and the therapist who departed after she flung a vase. "You're exploiting me," she'd complained once, but he dismissed it. Journalism's truth. Truth heals. The publication day was chaotic. Outside the hospital, protesters chanted and talk shows were called. Poppy's phone rang nonstop. Old friends congratulating her, strangers critiquing her cold heart. She turned it off, pulled the blinds, and waited for the storm to pass. It did not. Luna was discharged from rehab after weeks of treatment, and she returned home to a mother who shuddered at her touch. Now in this snowbound kitchen, the distinct grief has crystallized. Luna's coma stole her youth, while Poppy's rejection stole her homecoming. "I tried, Mom. God, I tried. But every time I look at you, I see pity, not love." Poppy leaned out, but Luna drew back. "It's not pity. It's fear. What if I lose you again? The crash took you once. This brings you back, but changed. You're not my girl anymore." Across town, Deke Harlan stared at his corner office plaque, Editor-in-Chief, Eldridge Gazette. The promotion had come quickly, national syndication, book deals offered. He sat alone, with only a bottle of scotch for company. Deliriously happy? That phrase mocked him right now. Lila's photo, his niece, glared out from the desk, a smiling teen with Luna's hair. Last week, he went to her actual grave and placed atonement stones. His spiteful sister had slammed the door. "You profited off her death, Deke. Stay away." The job's light dimmed with each passing day. Staff meetings went on, and the anecdotes became tedious. Deke's once loud chuckle now sounded phony. He missed freelancing's ruggedness and solo hunts. Success had isolated him as a king in an empty castle. One night, drunk dialing Poppy, he confessed, "I thought this was it, the peak. But it's a cliff. Happiness slipped, and now I'm falling into the saddest pit." Poppy, sleeplessness her bedfellow, met him at the cafe at 3 a.m. Over greasy eggs, they dissected their fractures. "Your shock was my envy," Deke admitted. I was so high on the win I ignored your pain and mine. Their friendship grew platonic but intense, a shared sadness building strange kinship. Deke assisted Luna in enrolling in community college, transporting her to courses when Poppy froze. Poppy tweaked his work, softening edges with her nurse's expertise. Luna, thawing slowly, prepared cookies for Deke, calling him Uncle Truth Teller. However, mending was deceptive, a thin veneer over chasms. Spring brought Luna her first date, a boy called Theo who was careful with her wounds. Poppy gazed from the porch, her heart twisted. She's moving on. Without me. Jealousy erupted, its maternal venom unmatched. She challenged Luna. Don't leave me too. Luna's reaction shattered. You left first, Mom. In that hospital room. Summer burned Eldridge, wildfires on the news reflecting inside blazes. Deke's book agreement deteriorated when publishers requested more drama, sensationalizing Poppy's rejection. He rejected and resigned in a blaze of ethics. The job was a trap, he explained to Poppy over ice cream in the park. Delirious happiness? It's delusion. Unemployed, he worked odd jobs like bartending at O'Malley's and penning op-eds. Freedom restored his flame, but melancholy persisted. Lila's ghost, the family schism. He visited Poppy every day, and their conversations were marathons of what-ifs. Autumn dyed the leaves gold, but Poppy saw rust from rot. Luna announced her pregnancy with Theo. Joy should have sprung, but instead there was horror. A grandchild? After I failed you. Poppy snapped, closing herself away. Deke discovered her catatonic, surrounded by baby clothing she had purchased impulsively. Poppy admitted to Dr. Vasquez at the hospital. My reaction was shock, yes. But deeper it's guilt. I drove her to that party. My fault. Luna gave birth to a boy named Elias in December, adding to the irony. Poppy was the first to hold him, tears streaming down her cheeks. A cathartic deluge rather than a frightening silence. He's real. You're real. However, anguish lingered. Elias sobbing echoed Luna's lost years. Deke, the infant's godfather by choice, bounced him, his face lit up. Not delirious but tranquil. He felt liberated after losing his job, so he began a podcast about medical blunders in honor of Lila. Years passed in a tranquil montage. Elias toddled, calling Poppy Nana. Luna forgave gradually as family dinners thawed ice. Deke discovered love with a librarian named Mara who was as steady as the sunrise. But the distinct melancholy stayed as an undercurrent. Poppy's gravesite visits continued, whispering to the empty ground. Deke's self-published books sold moderately, with the inscription to miracles that break us. Luna's nightmares recur on anniversaries, waking to a phantom grave. On Elias' 5th birthday they gathered. Poppy, Luna, Deke, Mara, and the boy with Luna's eyes. Balloons floated and cake coated small faces. Genuine laughter rang out now. But as dusk fell, Poppy took Deke away. It's still there, isn't it? The shock, the delirious high that crashed. He nodded, clutching her hand. Unique sadness. Ours alone. But we carry it together. In Eldridge's starlit night they stood, united by reborn loss. Happiness was fleeting but sadness, deep and irreplaceable, ensured they'd never forget the cost of living. Continuing to expand to 5,000 words, detailed scenes, interior monologues, subplots. The first serious test came in Elias' 5th year, during the winter. Poppy awoke to a phone call before dawn. Was Luna in labor? No. Elias, feverish, was brought to the hospital. The identical room for 17 is now the pediatric wing. As doctors swarmed, Poppy's eyesight tunneled. Flashbacks include beeps, tubes, and a girl on the bed who was not Luna. She backed against the wall, her breath ragged. Not again. Please, not my grandson. Deke entered with Mara, his face pallid. Breathe, Poppy. He's strong like his mother. But inside, Deke's own panic rose. Lila's crash, the phone call that changed everything. His hands shook as he signed paperwork, the editor's composure gone. Luna paced as Theo held her. Mom, talk to me. Don't shut down. Poppy rocked on the floor. I see her. The imposter. The grave. What if Elias is next? Her shocked reaction resurfaced like a trauma reflex. Nurses provided sedatives. She awoke hours later to find Elias stable and pneumonia-free. In recovery, the family surrounded the cot. Poppy kissed his cheek and whispered, Forgive Nana's fear. Luna knelt alongside her. We all have it. Mine's waking up alone. Deke watched as his sadness grew. Unique because it was layered. He'd won and lost a career, failed a niece, and now this vigil is echoing it all. He stepped out, tears freezing on his cheeks, and called his sister. I'm sorry. Come see Elias. Family. The next day, she arrived with a cautious hug that broke the ice. Deke, you were right. Stories heal if told truthfully. Spring brought reconciliations. Deke's show went viral with guests sharing mishap stories. Poppy spoke anonymously, her voice trembling. Rejection was my shield. Love was the wound. Luna's art therapy resulted in paintings of flowers blooming in graves and moms hugging shadows. They sold after being exhibited locally, financing Elias' future. Summer picnic. Laughing with undercurrents. Elias inquired, why do you make sad faces sometimes? Poppy responded, because we love deeply, little one. Sadness guards the heart. During the Fall Harvest Festival, Deke proposed to Mara amid the oaks. Cheers, but Poppy wept alone. Joy tempered with grief over her own unlived existence. It's winter again. Elias is 6. Poppy's health deteriorated as a result of stress on her heart. It's her turn in the hospital bed. Luna clasped her hand and said, don't leave. We need you. Poppy smiled softly. I stayed shocked for too long, now I'm here. Deke read aloud from her old diary, past sufferings echoing. She healed slowly but with purpose. Grandmother duties and podcast co-hosting. They were, nonetheless, characterized by their distinct melancholy. At Luna's wedding to Theo, vows exchanged, Poppy's toast. To miracles that shock, jobs that delude, and sadness that binds. Deke's best man speech. Deliriously happy once, profoundly sad now. Best life. Years later, Elias is 10 and interested about the story. They tell it gently around the fire pit. Grandma's shock saved us, made us strong. Poppy, 60, silver-haired, reflected in the mirror. Scars are beautiful. Deke, 65, and Mara by his side, a podcast legend. Luna is an artist mom and Theo's partner. What about the sadness? A gentle companion, as distinct as fingerprints. It whispered during peaceful nights, but daylight provided meaning. They lived in Eldridge beneath boundless sky, not happily ever after, but terribly and truly together.